Despite only starting 5 of his 37 games played for Arizona, Carter Bryant has vaulted himself into top 10 considerations. But will it be the Raptors who take a chance on the prospect with the 9th overall pick? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports. It's a YouTube channel that is completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors content and videos like this where we react to some of the best prospects the Raptors could select with the 9th overall pick, and we'll be doing plenty of coverage in the post-draft process, but we also do live streams on the channel, and I'll be live during both days of the NBA draft and hope to see you there to get the live reactions and answer your questions along the way. But today, we're trying to answer the question surrounding Carter Bryant, who again has really thrusted himself into these conversations around maybe even getting selected 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors, despite not really seeming to have that pedigree coming into this season. And the reason that Carter Bryant has become so interesting is that he just has the profile that so many NBA teams are looking for. Teams need defense. Teams need shooting. It's great when that guy is super athletic as well. Carter Bryant absolutely provides that, but is there enough talent here for a player who came off the bench 32 times out of 37 games for Arizona last season, for a guy who only averaged just above 19 minutes per game, somebody who still has a long way to go? Is this somebody worth taking 9th overall? Well, for starters, let's learn exactly who Carter Bryant is. 19 and a half years old or thereabouts when his name is called on draft night, and can play in both of the forward positions. I would liken him more towards being a power forward, especially with the size that he has. He's 6'8", but does have a 7-foot wingspan. Again, size good for both positions, but the way he kind of plays defensively, probably will see more of him as a forward. Carter Bryant really impressed people with not only having this size that, we've talked about it before in these videos, is typically the size of which players that the Raptors like to look at, 6'8", 6'9", 7-foot plus wingspan, but having that size and being super athletic is great. But what kind of differs for Carter Bryant compared to other players who kind of fit this profile the Raptors are looking at is that Carter Bryant is seemingly already a very good shooter and seemingly already a very good defender. That doesn't really reflect much with the statistics, which can leave a little bit to be desired for the player. Remember, he didn't play in that heavy amount of minutes. So I did add in his per 36 numbers here just to make it a little bit more fair to try and gauge exactly who Carter Bryant is. But even then, we're still leaving a bit to be desired. Only averaged 6.5 points per game this season, 12.2 per 36, 4.1 rebounds, 7.7 per 36, 1 block, which is just about 2 per 36. So it's not like he's lighting up the box score in any way here. Did light up a little bit with his efficiency, though. That's kind of what has been so impressive. Gone with a 2-point percentage here where he shot 59% on twos. Very nice to see. It's also good to see with the players taking so many shots right at the rim. And averaged 37% shooting from 3. Now, this is a player who only took 4.8 field goal attempts per game. 2.8 of those attempts were from 3, which is why I had to go the 2-point percentage, because when you're taking such a high volume of your shots from 3, it's going to lower your field goal percentage. So it's only fair that we look at his 2-point percentage as well. But because of this efficiency that we see here, he had a 59.3% true shooting percentage, which is great. Super efficient player who is also a very good defender, as we're going to see here with the strengths. I mean, the biggest strengths that we're going to see is really the 3-and-D potential. Good shooter who plays defense. This is the profile of players that NBA teams are looking for. If you have one, you want to keep a hold of them. The Raptors didn't really do that with OG Anunoby for a variety of complicated reasons, but I always said when it came to OG Anunoby, and look, I thought that the trade at the time made sense. Maybe looking back, we probably could have kept him, but hey, maybe at the time, the trade made sense. But I did say when the trade was made, when you trade away OG Anunoby, all you're going to be doing when he's gone is spending time trying to find the next one and find a guy who can replace that. And there are so many NBA teams out there looking for that type of player. They may be able to get it here with Carter Bryant in the draft. Super athletic to go along with it, like big time above the rim sort of player. We can see that on offense by finishing lobs and throwing down some pretty vicious dunks. But we also see on defense with his shot blocking ability. Can meet a player at the apex, but can even get a block a lot earlier than that, and he has such terrific hang time. Definitely alters a ton of shots defensively in those areas. We can see it on ball, but we also see it off ball, like the help defense four. It's a profile that I talk about a lot on this channel. That's why I kind of think maybe the power forward spot is better for him. The help defense is great. Can meet a player at the rim to get a block, can get chase down blocks, alter shots with his switchability as well. Can play multiple positions on defense, which is something that many teams should be targeting, but specifically the Raptors have looked at target in the past. Lots of great defensive qualities. On offense, it really just boils down to he's super athletic and finishing above the rim, and he has a really good three-point percentage. A lot of great traits that fit the profile of the modern NBA. So why are teams worried about him? Like, shouldn't he be going maybe even higher? Well, the weaknesses here showcase some things that teams could be alarmed with. And the first thing is really the sample size. Like, he came off the bench 32 out of 37 games played. He averaged less than 20 minutes played. He took 2.8 3-point attempts per game. Like, good numbers for sure, but how much of that is skewed by the sample size? Is he just hit some high variance? Can he sustain this over the course of an entire NBA season? You know, teams that worked him out and saw the three-point shooting might have a much better idea and will have a much better idea than I do, but it's something to be said there. How much of it is real? I wonder. Also, with the weaknesses, it's his self-creation. His handle's not super tight. You know, he's not creating for himself in the half court, but, you know, that's fine. You're not drafting him to be that guy. You're drafting him to excel, essentially, as a role player with, like, the potential of even higher upside. Like, there's clearly upside here, but you're thinking here you've got potentially an elite role player, but there is ability to go even further. So you're not as concerned about the self-creation stuff as of right now, particularly for a player who's a little bit more raw as well. Not a great playmaker. You know, he's not going to be setting up plays again where the guy's not going to have the ball in his hands a ton. That's completely fine. On defense, as much as, you know, he is a good defender, he's a bit foul heavy. Raptors or whoever drafts him will have to look at that and clean it up a little bit, but you know that's something that we see with a lot of guys coming into the league in any year of the draft. So something that absolutely can be worked on, but something that may need a bit more focus. And I don't really love commenting on this stuff for videos because, you know, I don't know the guy. I haven't worked with the guy, so I don't really know for sure. Some conversations have come out about his competitive motor, maybe a lack of development that has taken place over the last few years for the player, where it seems like, hey, could this guy be further along than he actually is right now? Potentially he should be. So there's a question mark there. I'm not as worried about that. I mean, when you come into the league, it's a different environment. You would hope things change, especially from a mental perspective, but it's something that has been brought up, so I felt it was fair to mention for the video. As far as a player comparable goes for Carter Bryant, there's quite a few players that you would want to look at, like OG Anunoby certainly comes to mind when you think of a 3-and-D player, but like in the absolute upper tier of what this player could accomplish, like you would want to look at a player like Kawhi Leonard. Like Kawhi Leonard is what OG Anunoby, like if OG Anunoby had the self-creation leap and the half court scoring leap, he could have become a player like Kawhi Leonard. So like when a player takes that super high level, that's the type of player that they can become. So like a little bit of OG at the very upper end of what he could achieve, a little bit of Kawhi Leonard potentially. But I think the best player comparable that I have here, particularly for the athleticism, the above the rim finishing that he displays, I think that the best player comparable here is Trey Murphy, actually. Trey Murphy has really exploded as one of those premier 3-and-D plus sort of players. Like, yes, very good three-point shooter. Yes, very good defender, but also like does even more with his game than just that. I think that that's the type of player that Carter Bryant should strive to become the NBA. Again, with the ability to go even further potential. I mean, you should strive to be like, you know, a player like Kawhi Leonard, but like a realistic goal would be to become a player like Trey Murphy. And Trey Murphy, I'm not sure how long he's going to stay with the New Orleans Pelicans, but if he is traded, like, there is such a desire for this level of a player that, you know, you see what Desmond Bane went for 4 first-round picks. People thought that was an overpay. Maybe it was a slight overpay, but then you look at a player like Trey Murphy. What is it going to take to get that deal done? You might be watching this video thinking, like, Trey Murphy, that's like 2 first-round picks max. I'm thinking that type of player, the amount of teams that need that and want that, that's a 3 first-round pick sort of player. So I think if Carter Bryant can get to anywhere near those levels, man, he can have a successful NBA career. But is this the right player for the Raptors? Because he is a raw player. He's got a long way to go to get to that sort of level. I like the pick. I mean, look, Carter Bryant won't be at the top of my list. That goes to a player like Kaman Malawash. I'm not sure he's going to trump a player like Noah Isong to get in that position there, or maybe some others. But Carter Bryant's going to be quite high on my list. And I'd be very happy to see his name called by the Raptors with the 9th overall pick. The reality is, like, look, we could use some impact off the bench, but, like, we've got, like, I wouldn't say, like, a super talented bench, but there's a lot of really solid options for the Raptors to deploy off the bench where Carter Bryant doesn't necessarily need a massive role out the gate. Like, this is a player the Raptors can buy some time to work with. And like I said, it's just so incredibly difficult to find this type of player profile for your team in the NBA. So why not go find it in the draft? Why not try to shape that sort of player out of the draft on a cheaper contract who has tons of value? If he can produce good levels of defense and good levels of shooting in the NBA, that is going to carve him out a successful NBA career. And I think that the Raptors can hone in on this talent and even get him further with the gifted athletic traits that he possesses, and that they can just heighten his offensive game even further. This is the type of player that you take a chance on in the draft, even with a pick like the one at 9th overall. There's quite a few players I like in this position. There's maybe a couple that I like more than Carter Bryant, but there's not a whole bunch that I like more than Carter Bryant. I'd be very happy with this pick. Would you be?